Virtual League excitement shows, European tour schedule grows, and Noam's now one of those. I'm David Hood of the Diplomacy Broadcast Network, and this is Deadline, DBN's monthly news program. Dateline April 2025 for our feature story, two of the most popular ways for hobbyists to participate in the world of diplomacy at present are Imperial Diplomacy and the Nexus community. Both are online venues, both involve variant play, and both have organizers as interviewees on this very edition of Deadline. So later in the program, we'll visit with each of them to learn about the wheres, the whys, and the hows of diplomacy play in their respective corners of dipdom. But first, a look at headlines from around the world of diplomacy. World DipCon 2025 is in the books, having been played face-to-face the first weekend of April in San Francisco, California, with local player Noam Brown achieving his very first World Championship. Noam rode two dominating performances in the earlier rounds of the event to the eventual overall title, just narrowly edging second-place finisher and only player to solo all weekend, Adam Siegel of New Jersey. Yours truly came in third. Adam Silverman led a team of organizers in putting on a tremendous event, featuring an innovative final round setup, which was combined with a team tournament. Attendees from all corners of the diplomacy globe created a player pool of 105 overall, including scores of past world, national, and regional champions from both the face-to-face and online communities. DBN provided coverage of the many qualifying games in its first broadcast, and then a second show devoted specifically to the three top boards in the last round, which comprised what was called the Champions Pool. Links to both DBN programs are below. The annual hobby meeting that Saturday was also a rousing good time, with previews not only of the 2026 World DipCon in Athens, but also of various national and regional events coming up on this year's diplomacy calendar. Voting for the 2027 World DipCon site took place as well, with Chicago's bid being the overwhelming favorite. Make your plans now to attend the WDC in Athens at the end of May 2026. The spring 2025 edition of Diplomacy World magazine was released the 1st of April, and it is chock full of interesting content for any discerning diplomacy fan. Issue 160 of the hobby's flagship publication includes articles about small d diplomacy in the real world by hobby veterans Lou Pulsifer and Eddie Brisson, a feature on Renegade's about-to-be published variant Era of Empire, a diplomacy crossword, and various convention or tournament reports and promos. Also in the issue is a reprint of Walt Buchanan's classical article on game-long two-way alliances, with review and criticism from modern-day hobbyist Malarkey. The contrast between how the hobby of Walt's day saw the prospect of a strong second place, with Mal's more modern reaction of horror to the concept of caring whether one comes in second, is worth itself the price of admission. Managing editor Doug Kent and co-editor Elle Dewar have produced a very enjoyable issue of Diplomacy World here, but the next edition should also be spectacular, as it will likely include lots of reporting from this year's World DipCon, among other things. There is no reason whatsoever why you could not be a contributor yourself. Yes, you who are watching me right now. If you went to the recent WDC or some other event this season, send Doug a report. If you have strong opinions on a particular tactical or strategic topic related to our game, write it up and send it in. I, for one, would like to read it. The 2025 face-to-face circuit in Europe is truly shaping up to be the best in years. As reported last month, the Netherlands Diplomacy Championship kicks things off May 10th and 11th in Groningen, run again by Jelte Kuiper. After that comes a new DIP event at Regenscon, June 28th and 29th in Regensburg, Germany, featuring 3 rounds run by DBN personality Robert Schupper. July 12th through 14th will see the 14th running of the Anjou Fire Tournament in France, the French National Championship, with Gabriel Leconcre and Pierre-Louis Bouvet as organizers. And then we have another newly announced event, the Norwegian Diplomacy Championship, set in Oslo for July 26th, 27th, under the tournament direction of Christian Hevestendal. 2 weeks after that, on September 6th and 7th, the Swiss National Championship returns, this year to be held in Sierra, with Christophe Boja again in charge. Then it will be off to Britain for the UK National Championship run by Bradley Grace in Warrington, September 19th to 21st, and then back to the Netherlands for the 2025 European Diplomacy Championship, held in Leiden, November 7th through 9th. Wow. Links to all of these events can be found below, so brace yourselves for this epic 2025 European Grand Prix circuit. Let's report now on the latest happenings from the zine scene, that part of the diplomacy hobby still based, as it all once was, within the pages of amateur diplomacy fanzines. Issue 313 of Alex Richardson's Obsidian just arrived in April, which included an article on how civil disorders were dealt with in various versions of diplomacy's rulebook, an overview of the content of the recent editions of the other zines Alex subscribes to, a lively letter column, and game reports from the diplomacy and other games that Alex runs on roughly monthly deadlines. I'm signed up for his next diplomacy opening. Care to join me? The contact info for Alex can be found below. Brendan White's zine Damn the Consequences has also been published, featuring game reports, another lively letter column, and details of his upcoming move from Australia to the Chicago area. He has openings in diplomacy as well as in the variants Napoleonic diplomacy and Machiavelli. Both of these zines have been in operation literally for decades, keeping the fanish flame alive as part of the wider world of diplomacy fandom. Kudos, guys. Kudos. Every month here on Deadline, we like to highlight the latest and greatest video, audio, or visual content from those whom we call our DBN media partners. Let's start with our friends Captain Meme and Ezio from the Diplo-Strats YouTube channel. They've released a number of diplomacy-themed videos since the last edition of our news program, including one about a diplomacy Sporkle quiz posted on their Discord server, 2 videos analyzing co-hosts Ezio's games in the latest iteration of the Olympus Online Press Tournament, and another installment in the Diplo-Strats' latest series of videos on the popular variant Imperial. Many hours of content await you if you use the link below to find the Diplo-Strats channel and start rummaging around. Now, if an audio-only product is more what you're looking for, there are also multiple episodes of the Diplomacy Games podcast now available for download since the last time I reported. Co-hosts Gavin Atkinson and Ken Gordon talk on these episodes about goings-on in the Australian hobby, a report on Ken's win of the Bangkok New Year's Diplomacy Tournament back in January, and they discuss details of the upcoming Cane Toad Classic diplomacy event coming up in Brisbane in late August. In the show notes is a link to the episodes page of their website so that you can browse all their available episodes. A few months into the 2025 season, the various virtual diplomacy leagues around the world are hopping, with opportunities to play live games with negotiation by audio, as well as live gunboat or speedboat games. Later in this program, you'll see an interview with Keith Worstell about the available play on Nexus. Other possibilities include the Virtual Diplomacy League, the VDL, run by British hobbyist Isaac Jukes, which just held its latest game day on April 19th, with the usual 3 rounds of play for time zones available to anyone around the world. Coverage of those games was provided right here on DBN when the April edition of Deadline came on, with a link available below in the show notes to that program. The latest game day for the VDL is May 17th. That's the next one. Also featured on that DBN League Night episode were games from the European-based league called the 7 Years' War. This league enables play not only in English, but other languages as well, and it has its next available games on April 27th. Also on the 27th is the next game day for the Snake Pit, the Australia-based virtual league, with the next game day after that scheduled for May 25th. The day before those things, on April 26th, we see the latest round of the UK-based league, the Tour of Britain, this year under the leadership of Bradley Grace. If you are looking to play in any of these leagues, or frankly in just about any other diplomacy venue you want, the best resource to consult would be the schedule page of our DBN website, which has dates, times, details, and links for more information. We've provided that address below as well. The summer's North American Diplomacy Federation's face-to-face events are fast approaching, starting with the 39th running of DipCon, the world's oldest diplomacy event held in the same location with the same organizers. With 3 rounds to take place in Chapel Hill, North Carolina over Memorial Day weekend, May 23rd, 25th, this year's event already has registrants from 10 U.S. states plus the District of Columbia, including 6 first-time players. DipCon also features non-diplomacy board gaming throughout the weekend as players compete for the Iron Man trophy. More information about that event can be found using the link below in the show notes, including why you should come just for the Saturday barbecue alone. On the weekend of July 25th through 27th at the University of Colorado at Boulder, the Armada Club's signature event, called the Regatta, will be held as usual under the capable leadership of longtime hobbyist Manus Hand. After a Friday night dinner and social time, the diplomacy itself gets underway with 2 rounds on Saturday and 1 on Sunday. Now, Zachary Moore suspiciously won this event last year. Who will similarly luck into the win this year? Go see for yourself, because it could be you. Alex Maslow will again run the Boston Massacre Tournament, this year to be held August 8th through 10th at the Pandemonium Books and Games in Cambridge, Massachusetts. This event boasts 1 round per day with the registration form linked below. And then, of course, we have the 2025 North American Diplomacy Championship, DipCon, to be hosted by the Weaselmoot Tournament in Chicago the first weekend of October. This will be the must-go event for the remainder of this season, with Brandon Fogel and the rest of the Windy City Weasels guaranteed to put on a wonderful gathering as usual. Weaselmoot will also host the 2027 World DipCon, so why not go get the lay of the land for yourself this year to get ready for your 2027 run at the world title? Do it! Links to all of these upcoming events can be found below. And by gosh, let's not leave out the face-to-face happenings down under, of which there are several coming up. Tournament diplomacy will make its triumphant return to New South Wales on June 21st and 22nd, as the Sydney Cup will debut as part of the 2025 Asia Pacific Tour. Well-known Aussie hobbyists Jason Gray and Darcy Morris will host this event, featuring 2 rounds that Saturday and 1 on Sunday. Below is a link to the registration form, as well as to the Facebook page for Australian diplomacy. The next event on the AP Tour this year will be the second running of the Cane Toad Classic, run by a team led by Gavin Atkinson. This tournament will also feature 3 rounds and will be held in Brisbane, Queensland, over the weekend of August 30th and 31st. There will be more information on Cane Toad as well as other upcoming Asia-Pacific events on the next few episodes of Deadline. As if all of this upcoming diplomacy action were not enough, if you are 19 years old or younger, there is yet another option for you. Which debuted in 2024, the Youth Diplomacy Championship, the YDC, has just announced its launch for its 2nd season. Run by Philip Cook and Yelta Kuiper, this event features both virtual face-to-face and extended deadline games to be played in July and August so as to avoid expected school commitments for many of the expected participants. Players will choose their preferred format of play and compete in 1 game against other youthful competition. Any interested folks should join the VWDC Discord server using the link below and then look for the announcement in, the announcements channel, which includes information on how to DM the organizers for more information. Come on, youngins. This is your time to shine. And now, time for a segment of our show we call Where to Play, in which we focus on one particular method or venue for diplomacy play and why you should try it. This month, we'll talk to the hobbyist known as Downpour. a GM and moderator of the Imperial Diplomacy Discord server, about that particular variant and the buzz surrounding play in that server. All right, Downpour, welcome to Deadline.
Yes, thank you for having me.
Absolutely. First off, tell us a little bit about what you do when you're not running Imperial Diplomacy games.
So personally, I'm a pretty big chess player. I love the tactics of it, and it is kind of what drew me to diplomacy to begin with, because it has the tactics that I personally really like, and there's also that diplomacy element, which obviously chess is lacking. And I thought that it would be very good to not only practice that, but to have some fun with it.
And I believe you told me you're in college now?
Yes.
What
I'm
are you
studying
studying?
aerospace engineering.
Okay, well, that is an exciting thing to be studying, I think. All right, so you've talked about the fact that chess sort of got you into diplomacy. Is there anything in particular that keeps you playing diplomacy or its variants?
Yeah, so diplomacy is really nice because you have those interactions that are so multifaceted. You know, you have to focus not just on your neighbors, but on their neighbors' neighbors and how they impact each other. And there's just a bunch of variables to consider. And it is really the complexity of it that arises to a new game each time. Similar to chess, except in chess, typically things stray in parallel directions. But in diplomacy, you can have the wildest games ever. And it's so interesting.
Is there a particular variant of diplomacy that you prefer to play, or a particular type of variant? I mean, because I know we're here to talk about one particular one, but is there a type of variant that you prefer to play?
So there are two, really. I'm a huge Fog of War player, so I really like that aspect of it. But as you said, Imperial diplomacy is what we're here to talk about. So I feel like I definitely need to say that those kind of map variants are really nice, and especially this one, because I think we have something special on our hands.
Well, before we get to Imperial, Fog of War. Some people may not even know what you're talking about there. So what do you mean by Fog of War?
So Fog of War is where you can only see where your units can move to. So frequently, you cannot see what's happening on the other side of the map. It relies upon your neighbors telling the truth, and thus you're way more susceptible to lies, and thus to lie yourself. So it is way more about figuring out the truth in the lies. Are your neighbors really being attacked, or do they have no one to attack? And thus it is really that balance of, are you safe to attack them? Can you trust them that they are distracted elsewhere? Or do you really need to focus on some other area so you don't need to worry about causing a backlash against you?
Interesting. Yeah, then and just for those scoring at home, Fog of War variants have been a thing since at least the 70s. All right, so we've been playing that. We used to play that by mail, believe it or not. All right, so for Imperial, it's obviously a not only is it a global map, it's a map with a lot of powers in it. Is that particularly attractive to you, where you've got a lot of players playing at the same time?
Yes. So in Imperial diplomacy, there are 25 players for. It's just a ton, because you have all those interactions that I was describing earlier that you may want to keep in your mind, but you also have the other side of it, where if you're playing a regional, then realistically you only need to keep in mind 7 or 8 colonial or regional interactions. So there really is that spectrum of, do you want more of a smaller game in the spectrum of Imperial diplomacy, or do you play someone like Portugal or the Netherlands, who you really need to know the entire map to do well, and how everyone is interacting with each other?
So for those that haven't seen the map or haven't watched any of the coverage, that exists online, so Imperial, you've got some that literally are just, and China is just in that region of the world, whereas Portugal or somebody like that is all over the world. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, so Portugal, I believe, is in 5 of the continents. So South America, Europe, Africa, Asia, and Australia, or I say Australia, but it's more like Oceania. But
Yeah.
yeah, so you need to keep in mind a ton of different interactions just to do decently because you are everywhere. So if you are a really excited player who loves taking on big challenges, highly recommend Portugal or the Dutch. Very fun powers to play. I've played Portugal myself. It is definitely a lot, and if you love that chaos, there you go.
Is the what is the historical setting, if there is one, for Imperial?
Yeah, so the map takes place in 1642. We have a very good map creator. His name is Flair, and he has made it almost completely historically accurate. Of course, there has been some balance changes, just minor ones, but for the most part, it is actually very representative of what things were like at the time in 1642, because you have all these major powers in play. Their areas of influence are actually fairly similar to what they currently are in the map. And I even had someone who knows a decent amount of history take a look at the map, and they actually thought that it was highly accurate and only had like small differences, but for the most part, completely, just for a map with those balance changes, getting 100% accuracy is near impossible because you also need to make the map fun to play. And
Right.
honestly, this is probably the best of both worlds. Like, I cannot imagine anything better.
There's some watching this broadcast who are going to claim that I personally can verify whether these are historically accurate for 1642, and I'm here to tell you that's not true. That's maybe 100 years later, but 1642, I was not around.
100 years later, wow.
Yeah, I mean maybe, but certainly not
Mhm.
1642. All right. Well, what about Imperial really gets your juices flowing? Well, I mean, that you're obviously an organizer, you're a player, you're a
Mhm.
GM. Why Imperial?
Yeah, so there is that really big growing community here. As I said earlier, there are 25 players per game, and we are starting to get up to 15, 16, 17 games per month that we are starting. And when you look at it, that's a lot of players signing up every month for a game that typically goes on for 2+ months. So it is really a lot of influence and hype that we're getting around it. And not only is it huge being within this hype train, but you can really get a feel for the community. And it is a very nice feeling for an active community who loves to play these kinds of games. And as a moderator, I can ask for nothing more.
Well, tell us a little bit about the server that we're
Mhm.
talking about, where Imperial is played.
Mhm.
What's the structure of it? What goes on there, and how are games actually organized and played, sort of physically?
Mhm. So for Discord, we use the Imperial Diplomacy Discord channel. Shocker, but basically how it is structured is that you join. You can select which channels to view, but for the most part, there's that normal talking channel which you have in every Discord. There, we do host some regular games, in addition to gunboats. So it's played on your traditional diplomacy map, and that is for some of the more newer players trying to practice and get used to it before the bigger map. But we do also host some more experienced players there too. So there's always that regular diplomacy there if you really want it. But of course, most people come for the big map with all the players. So how that frequently happens is every month we start a wave of games. And by a wave, that could include, as I was saying, 15 plus games where you just have a bunch of players. You sign up via a Google Forms that we submit, and from there we can match you to one of the powers that you really want to play. And we have a very good odds of getting you into the power you chose as first or second. Very rarely do we ever go beneath that. So if you have one specific power in mind, then it is actually fairly reasonable that we get you in that power. So it's really good there. Besides that, how the actual games are set up. and this is something very interesting, is we never actually use another website besides Discord. The entire game, the entire press, everything is done in Discord. That includes creating the maps, because what our GMs do is we use a Discord bot so that we gather the orders from the players that they submit in their Discord channel. And from there, the bot gathers all of these orders, puts together a map from it, and then outputs the map to the GM for them to submit themselves, which is huge because we put a lot of work into the bots, and it was struggling early on, but nowadays we have near perfected it. It makes very few issues now, and it is honestly incredible. I am not that code savvy. As I said, I was an engineer, but it's still incredible to witness and be a part of.
So the bot accepts the orders, adjudicates the moves, spits out the map, sends it to the GM.
Yes.
Yeah, that is kind of astounding that you don't have to use anything other than what is within that particular Discord server.
Yes. And even better is we have received reports from players that some of the names have been a little bit difficult trying to type out, especially in like a fast setting. So we have been changing the bot to make it be able to recognize the moves, even with typos or just shortening it. So, for example, if you're talking about Ayutthaya, for example, you could probably just type in AYU, and then it knows what province you are talking about because none of the other ones start off with those 3 letters.
Man, something that salvages spelling errors. Zachary Moore should be playing this game because he can't spell his old name. All right. Well, I know that many games of Imperial have already been played at this point. It sounds like a whole lot, scores of them. So is there evidence already to say which powers are the strongest or the easiest to play or the most challenging, that sort of thing?
Right. So between most of the updates that we adjust the map because of balance changes, the power or the most powerful country definitely sways a good deal. For the most recent one, it was probably Portugal because they were doing pretty poorly in the first iteration of the game. So we adjusted them to make them more powerful. We very slightly overdid it. So we are starting to tune them back now a little bit. But before then, it was a little bit of the Ottomans. So nowadays, they aren't really performing as well, but I'm sure we will see that change in the near future. And overall, it is really about your playstyle because your playstyle should match with the country because each country has almost their own playstyle. It is basically regular diplomacy, but just more extreme because if you are Portugal, your playstyle should really be to talk with other people, to coordinate that diplomacy because you cannot just win against another regional one-on-one because you have maybe 1 or 2 units to their 4 or 5. So you really need to do that coordination. And at the end of the day, if you are looking for that most powerful country, it should really reflect your actual play style.
What are the typical, let me just ask a more specific question. The winning conditions of this particular variant are different from other variants that people might be familiar with. So give us an overview of that, if you would.
So the big thing is that to get in the variety in terms of the different countries, we adjust their starting size. And of course, we can't all say that the countries have the same win condition because some countries start off 4 times bigger than others. So what we do is an adaptive approach. We use something called VSCC, which is Victory SC condition. It is unique to most powers. Granted, most powers have similar ones, but they are based off of your starting SC count. For example, we have most of the regionals starting at 4 SCs. So their Victory SC condition is 32 SCs. But let's say you have another regional close behind you with 31, then it's so close that we actually make it adaptive within their own countries. So it gets a bit complicated, but to give you a brief overview, you need to be a certain amount ahead of the next big player for you to claim a solo. If you cannot break that amount, then you would need to declare a group victory with you and the other groups of people who are trailing close.
Gotcha.
Mhm.
How often do the games end in solos versus a shared victory?
So very frequently do they actually end in solos. I can only think of 4 games off the top of my head that have not, but to keep in mind, I have probably looked at 20 plus games, so I would not be surprised if I said 80% of them were solos. But of course, I do not have the numbers on the top of my head, so
Right.
that's only an estimate.
Yeah, that's fine. Well, in terms of running the games, is there a particular number of days or hours on your deadlines, or do they vary? Tell us about that.
So for the most part, we follow this 2-1-2-1-1 structure. Basically, that is you have 2 days for your spring and fall moves. You have 1 day for your retreats, and you have 1 day for your builds. So it is a fairly asynchronous game where you don't need to tune in that often to actually get press done and submit your orders. So it is perfect for people in different time zones like Europe, America, or Australia, or anywhere else. It's just I named most of the English-speaking ones. Mm-hmm.
Well, what do you expect in the future for Imperial Diplomacy? Do you have any thoughts about that?
Yes. So right now, we are currently rolling out Blitz games. They are 1 day long games, typically all day long. And we have received a ton of interest for it. And so we are starting to come out with one every 2 weeks, which is crazy because organizing that many players that frequently, it really shows you have a robust and active community. But because those are starting to draw more attention, we are starting to have those in increasing frequency. And I see good things for that in the future. And more importantly, we have this really big idea coming up this summer. It is a chaos version. So if nobody knows what chaos is, it is where every supply center starts as their own country.
Right.
So in regular diplomacy, there are, I believe, 70-ish supply centers.
34.
34. Okay.
34.
Sorry, I overshot it a little bit. But let me overshoot it some more. Ours has over 330. So over 330 different supply centers, meaning over 330 different powers. For most games and most communities, reaching a chaos game of that level would be crazy, would be impossible. But we can actually do it. We have seen a ton of interest in it. And last year, we did do one of specifically Europe with 81 different players, if you've heard of that. But those signups closed in less than 1 minute. So we have a very good community, and I think that if people want to join that 300 plus player game, feel free because that's going to be amazing. That's going to be exciting, and
that's going to be insane. It would be the word I would use. It's exciting, sure, but insane would probably be.
I actually don't know this off the top of my head, but is that the largest game you have ever heard of?
Yes. It's the largest game I've ever heard of. I mean, we used to play, I've actually played Chaos live face-to-face before with 34 players. It's once, way a long time ago. But the idea of doing 300 and something for Chaos, I mean, that's just totally insane. So I wish you all the luck of the world with that. Going back to Blitz for a minute, we in sort of the wider diplomacy world would think of Blitz as 5-minute turns on a regular map. Is that what it is on Imperial? Is it 5-minute turns, or is it something else given the number of players?
Yeah, we did extend it. So there are 20-minute turns. Typically, we can get done with 7 to 8 years in roughly an 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. time frame with a 1 hour break for lunch. So we do go by pretty well. by 20 minutes, I mean 20 for spring and fall moves, 10 for the rest.
Gotcha.
But overall, it is very nice. It is still very chaotic, especially since you have to talk with a bunch of players. So for sanity, we need to put 2 players on each colonial, or else it will not be fun. But
how many colonial powers are there? You don't have to, if you know exactly, that's fine. But just in general, how many are versus regional powers?
So our big colonials are Portugal, France, England, Dutch, and Spain. Those are the main ones. You could contest Poland is also a colonial because they have 2 one-center provinces out in the rest of the world. But for the most part, that is pretty much it. So you still have a good number of colonials, but still the vast amount, probably 18, 19 are regionals. So you have a huge choice within them. And of course, the regionals vary in size too, because the Ottomans are huge. They are one of the largest regionals. So you still have a lot of variety no matter what you choose.
What are the smaller regional powers? Some people may not even know what, maybe not even familiar with those powers. So let's talk about that a second.
So we have a bunch of powers on the smaller side. So we have numerous, starting off with Aymara. It is a South American regional power near the West Coast. On the other side of the world, we have the Ayutthaya, which is in this, I don't quite know exactly where it is at in the world, but it is right above Indonesia. Okay. I forget the exact term for it. But on the other side, or I say on the other side, but it's really a huge map. We have the Athabasca in Northwest America, or Northwest North America. And honestly, there are so many that I could just name and choose. Congo, Ajuran, just numerous. But I think the most interesting one is one we just added recently. They are called the Guarani tribes. Sorry, just needed to verify the pronunciation, but they are just recently added. So we are shifting up the dynamic of South America a good deal with this, and it'll be very interesting. And Thailand was the country for Ayutthaya. Just remembered it while speaking, but yeah.
Well, that's awesome. All right. Any final thoughts then? We appreciate all this information. Any final thoughts for our audience about Imperial or about diplomacy in general?
Yeah. So from Imperial Diplomacy, we are definitely growing, and we would love to have your support for it. We have a great community going. We have a really inclusive one too. So if you are looking just for a place to hang out or something, feel free to join us. Of course, we do host games, and that'll be a huge focus, but we would love to hang out, have some fun, and that's really what we are. We want to be a big community together. We want to grow together, and most importantly, we want to have fun. So if that sounds like what you want to do, feel free to join us. We would love to have you.
Well, I am certainly pro fun, and I know a lot of people in our audience are pro fun. So we appreciate that invitation, and there'll be an invite link for your Discord server in the show notes for this episode of Deadline. All right, Downpour, thanks for being on the show so much.
Thank you very much for having me.
And for a special bonus edition of Where to Play, let's discuss all the latest Nexus goings on with North Carolina-based organizer Keith Worstell, who's known online as Superstition. Keith, welcome back to Deadline.
Thanks. It's always great to be here.
Sure. All right, before we talk about what you're up to right now, let's remind our viewers of what you've been up to in the past. So describe your diplomacy origin story and your involvement, in the hobby up to now.
It's a long story, but I guess in college I was playing Same Time Risk, and it just became a little too easy, too predictable, and I wanted a harder game. And I found a website called Dip Bounce around 2000, and you can look at the stats. I'm the worst ranked player there, just because we didn't have cell phones or anything. So I just forgot about my games, and my reliability went down. And picked the game back up in around 2018 when Conspiracy launched, and immediately I got drawn to variants. I started making my 1862 variant that year, and made my own Discord for that variant. Somehow I got pulled into Nexus. I guess they found me. They found me just because of had another diplomacy variant, and I became seed 1 on the in that first season, and that kind of launched me into gaining a following, because I really didn't have a great grasp on tactics. So my entire play style was just how I spoke, and ended up making a group called the Stitch Hearts, and that group is formally supposed to be able to teach diplomacy. There's a lot of places where you can actually learn tactics, but there's not a lot of places where you can learn to speak to other people and how to pretty much get what you want and improve your reputation in the game. That community kind of moved on to include a safe place for LGBT and women in the hobby, because it's not it used to not be as nice to minorities, and so it's kind of a safe place for people to talk. And so yeah, and that's pretty much the majority of what I've been doing in the past.
Well, that's important work. But all of it, particularly the last part, is important work. So I commend you for that. All right, you're also one of the primary organizers for a face-to-face club in the Triangle area. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, after DixieCon 37, John Dargis and Todd Craig really wanted to start a local group, and John really went through a lot of the effort getting all the names and really pushing to make a community. I just happen to have a good space, and we have people in the Triad, we have people in Fayetteville, the Triangle, we have people coming from Virginia, and so I'm just centrally located. We do have games in the Triangle, and I think we're scheduling one in Virginia, in Roanoke, on the 3rd of May. So if you're in the North Carolina area and you want to play some diplomacy, just send me a message and we'll get you going. So,
and if they can't find you, they can find me. Send me a message and I'll get it to Keith.
And DixieCon is coming up, so I'll see you there, and we can exchange information there too as well.
That is exactly right. DixieCon is upcoming, but
y'all are scoring is draw based, so we prepare for DixieCon all year round.
as well you should. All right. So for the uninitiated among us, give us a little bit of the history of Nexus as a hub for diplomacy play.
Nexus started as one of the diplomacy communities and it started with a cross-platform tournament, because there were so many different web-based and I guess Android, cell phone-based platforms. And so we wanted a tournament that kind of brought those communities that were kind of cliquey and on themselves together. That way we have some kind of overlap and some kind of unified community. From there, the community has just grown, and we've added more and more events as the community grows. So yeah, that's the long and short of it. Bumps along the way, but
For those that just don't have any idea, Nexus is basically housed in a Discord server. Am I right?
It is. It is one of the first and largest Discord servers for online diplomacy play. We cater to press, gunboat variants, so that's our main focus.
And it's now just one big happy Discord for leagues, tournaments, everything else, right?
Correct. We still have the Nexus League server. Most of it's coming over. The Gunboat League is coming over tomorrow, or the 14th, which this won't air tomorrow. And then the Press League is going to take a little bit longer to come over. But yeah, it's coming over slowly.
Tell us specifically what tournaments or leagues are going on right now.
Well, right now we have 3 leagues that are going and active. The Press League is run by Andrew Zick, and it's still on the Nexus League server, but it's slowly migrating over. The Speedboat League is run by Iber Condro, and it's been very active recently. Europeans are playing, Australians are playing, Americans are playing. There's games forming all the time. The current season's going to end on April 20th, so if you want to actually jump into a speedboat game and practice this week, or you can jump in the new season if you want to play a more ranked game after the 20th. If you haven't tried speedboat, definitely should. They're a lot of fun. They last an hour to 2 hours. And shout out to my boys out there.
That's 5 minutes. For those maybe watching this, maybe don't know what speedboat is. That's 5-minute deadline gunboat, right?
Yep. It is a very fast gunboat game.
Right.
And there's a lot of intense arguments after they're done.
Well, there's intense arguments after any game of diplomacy is done, but I guess in this case, it's been a quick 2 hours probably.
Yep. And you can't talk. You can't talk the entire time, so people got a lot to say.
I'm sure that's true.
And then the Gunboat League is run by Evan Swihart, and the newest season is just launching, season 8. And the first wave launches on the 14th. If you haven't signed up for it, the next wave launches on the 28th. So if you want to get on this year's Gunboat, now's the time. So
now I think I recently saw an advertisement for some kind of combined event, like a forgotten the name now. It's like a trilogy or something like that. Tell me about that.
Well, first we still have our 2 tournaments that are going on right now. Our season 9 classic is still going on, and our France versus Austria variant tournament is ongoing. But the newest thing that just launched is the United Cup, and it's a team game. And it's going to go over France versus Austria, press games, gunboat games, and then a team round, which is France, Russia, Turkey versus Germany, Austria, Italy. And you'll play in all of those, or your team will play in all of those. And it's a team of 4. And so it's a good time to represent your local club, your city, your country, your server, or just if you have a group of friends, just make a team and see who's the best.
Well, that does sound awesome. Now, there may be some people watching this who are primarily face-to-face players, or they've only ever played on WebDip or something like that. To tell us, give us a little commercial on why they should try one of the leagues or tournaments you just mentioned.
Well, I mean, leagues are very non-committal. You can pick up a game anytime. So if you want to play one game and you just want a high competitive game and you just want to play, pick up a game. And it's not as much commitment as a tournament. Tournament, you kind of set to a set regiment, and you're expected to play the amount of games to fruition. But a league you can just pick up whenever it was casual. So yeah.
And if you're a face-to-face player and you've never tried to play online games, or maybe you've only ever done virtual face-to-face and you never tried press, talk to our viewers a little bit about why they should reach out and touch a different form of play.
They offer very different feelings for me. I am a press player, and then going to face-to-face was a completely different feeling. I feel like when I play press, I'm making a relationship with somebody, and that relationship continues for a month. And you get the highs and lows of being in a real relationship, because most of the time you're talking not about game, you're talking about other things in life, trying to make a connection. And so it's almost deeper and more personal, where when you're up face to face, it's kind of like a sport. You're playing a game and it's more intense because of how fast it's going. But it's just a completely different emotion. And I think everyone should try each of the different modes of play just to see what's right for them, because it does give you different gratifications.
Yeah, and sometimes all of the above might be right for somebody, depending on their time investment that's available to them right then.
And if so, join the Cup, because we do it all.
Well, I didn't say I was going to ask you this, but I have to now, because you've talked about forming deep relationships over time, and all that. All right, so you have broadcast with Ed Sullivan, of all people, on the Diplomats YouTube channel. Now, tell me what it's like to actually be in a long-term broadcast relationship with one Ed Sullivan. That's what we all want to know.
Well, I met Ed. He used to be one of my hearts. He decided that he wanted to go solo, so I can't blame him there. But we started our friendship there, and I don't know, we just click. It's kind of funny because I feel like I'm a better player, but he's a better talker, so then he just does better than me. So it's kind of interesting analyzing the board with him and seeing how he sees things. And yeah, he's just a great commentator, and he facilitates things very well.
He really does, all kidding aside. And you do have different styles and different perspectives, which is exactly what you'd want when you're analyzing a diplomacy game for the benefit of an audience who's trying to learn the game, don't you think?
Yeah, and I like to go through it more in depth, just because I feel like when you're doing a quick launch, like DBM does, they usually focus on who's winning, what's going on, and that's what people really care about. But when you're able to do long form analyze, it's just better for all the players to learn a little bit on, what people think about how they're playing and how they could be doing things better. So,
I mean, I guess we should, if somebody has never watched the Diplomats before, it's worth going to YouTube and going and watching coverage. It's a totally different, frankly, a different product than what we have on DBN, where you're analyzing in depth, basically one move per show, or maybe two moves per show sometimes. But it is much more in depth usually analyzing a press game, I would say.
I've had a lot of new players reach out to me and say that they really like the blow by blow, the turn by turn analysis, because it really lets them understand positioning and where they need to be, and what the other side of the board even means to you, because most people are very myopic and only see their local theater at any time. So
yeah. Well, if someone was asking, should you watch DBN type coverage or should you watch the Diplomats coverage? And I would say yes.
Yes, both.
They both have absolute benefits to you. All right, so for someone who's been listening to you talk about Nexus and they want to get involved in Nexus events, what's the best way to do that?
I am available as Keith Worstell on Discord. You can just PM me if you need to there. There should be a link down below to join the Nexus server, and you can ask for me directly there, or nexusdiplomacy@gmail.com if you'd rather email me if you're not a Discord efficient person.
And that would be a good place to ask you questions for someone. Yeah. Any of those any of that contact data?
Those all go directly to me.
Great. Well, I got to see you about a week ago in San Francisco. It was great to see you there for World DipCon. What did you think about that event as a whole?
It was my first World DipCon, and I will say that the sleep deprivation, the strong competition, and the lack of food got me on the first round. And I was in very bad morale. But after that, I recovered, and I had a really good time. It only took 4 hours of sleep and a good breakfast, and I was back playing. It was extremely well run. Not only the tournament, but the activities that only a well-organized local club can really do. On a side note, thanks to Justin for making amazing player cards.
Oh my gosh.
Justin and Laura made these trading cards, and I had the benefit of signing my own card for a bunch of people that were collecting them. And I thought that was a really neat experience as well.
Yeah, it was incredibly cool. Justin was on the show last month talking about the cards, and he did in fact sell out. Nice. Through the weekend, so there were no cards left. So I
think next time he has to release them a couple hours earlier, because it messed with my dinner schedule and then ran into games because people were just trading nonstop.
Yeah, it was. It sounds a little bit weird without the context, but it was an incredible hour or two right after those cards came out. There were people doing all sorts of running around trying to trade and looking for full sets, and it was really something.
Yeah. Had some of the locals to say, anyone's got a card at Target.
Yeah, I'm sure that did happen. Well, let me ask a wider question. What do you think, sitting here right after that, very successful World DipCon, what do you think about the strength and the, experiences that people are having in the hobby right now?
I think the hobby is actually pretty strong and growing. It always has its ups and downs, but I think the major recovery that we had to have was post-pandemic. I think we had a surge because, everyone had nothing else to do. And now I think we're back on an upswing. People are learning how to organize a little bit better face-to-face. And I think the hobby is growing not only locally, but internationally. I feel like I'm more connected to the Australian and European players than I ever was before. And I think that connection is making a lot more excitement around the hobby and potential. And we just have a lot more resources on how to grow our own hobbies, both online and locally.
Yeah, it's true. These leagues that have come up, the virtual leagues, are also an important connection that people have between other events that they may be participating in, and is a different form of connection. It's not better or worse, a different form of connection than people do playing press games.
Yeah, the virtual leagues are amazing just because you get to play with a different caliber of people. You lose a little bit of the body language from face to face and the ability to go have a drink afterwards and decompress. But for the most part, it's still really high quality games, sometimes even more high quality just because of the number of players that you can get to participate. So, yeah,
that's true.
Play a virtual game. It's fun.
It is fun. All right. Any challenges that you see out there facing our hobby right now?
I think we just need to make sure that we remember this is a diplomacy community and that it's a community of game players. And as long as we don't let one person dictate the direction of our community, we'll stay vibrant and diverse. So as long as we're doing this to have fun, just make sure it stays fun.
Well, fun is kind of the point, isn't it?
It is the point. If it's not fun, well, it's not worth doing.
That's really true. Any particular opportunities you think we should seize that you think are out there?
I don't know. I just got to be passionate about what I'm in charge of and try to make it the most entertaining and welcoming place that I can.
Well, I want to commend you for sort of revitalizing Nexus a little bit. The fact that it's back on the upswing is really good for the hobby in general, I would say. I think you're obviously one of the people to blame for that, and so I give you the credit for that.
Yep, it was it's a very much a positive thing, and I'm very excited because it's a long time coming. I tell people it's the longest game of diplomacy I've ever played, and I just had to wait out for an MR, and here I am.
Well, who knew that skills learned in a game could be helpful outside of the game itself? Who knew?
I did. I teach people that in the Heart server.
It is a good subject for teaching. All right. Any final thoughts for our deadline audience?
Yeah. If you're interested in diplomacy, y'all check out Nexus. And if you find out Nexus isn't for you, there's links to all kinds of sites that you can find something that you like and your style. So just be passionate about diplomacy and check us out.
All right, that's a good place to end it. There will be a link in the show notes for people to join the Nexus server. So hopefully people will be able to do that and look you up. Keith, thanks so much for being on the show, and thanks for all you're doing for the hobby.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks to all of you watching at home. We hope you have enjoyed this broadcast of Deadline. If you have news, ideas for features, or feedback of any kind, please feel free to send an email to info@diplobn.com, or you can drop me a line directly using davidhood@dixiecon.com. To review all of our broadcast offerings, visit our website, diplobn.com. This is David Hood signing off. I wish you brightness and bliss and, of course, Belgium.